good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? I hope you all had a very good weekend. Welcome to the Snowflake Viewpoint, episode 94. We are 94 episodes of this live streaming. We are 6 away from the 100th episode. I think we need to do a very special 100 episode on the 100th edition. Wonder what we should do. Got any ideas? Let them down in the comments below. 100 episodes of this. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. We have quite a lovely bunch already here on the YouTube live chat. But just before I get to them, just want to remind you guys the date and time of this live stream is the 24th of March 2025 at 8 PM UK time. We are dual streaming live here on youtube.com/REGANELITE. So if you are here on YouTube, please hit that like button, share, subscribe, all that good jazz. But if you're on twitch.tv/REGANELITE1, and do feel free to follow if you're on YouTube, to head over there to hit the follow button over there for me, greatly appreciated. Make sure you hit the bell notification icon on there as well, so you'll be notified on Twitch whenever I go live as well. We have a very busy week ahead of us, guys. Before we get to the chat and the current news, just a quick reminder for you guys. So I have live stream tomorrow with Snowflake's Corner. We'll be covering news from outside the UK, not specifically America. I may cover 1 or 2 news stories from America, but other stories. War in Gaza, the current conflict in Gaza, events perhaps maybe in South Korea, because things have been shifting over there, among other things as well. And then on Wednesday, guys, so we're going to have 2 live streams on Wednesday. We have Prime Minister's questions, and then I will cover the spring statement, which is by Rachel Reeves. Rachel Reeves will give us a spring statement at 12:30. So Prime Minister's questions is going to be quite short on there. So I will have Prime Minister's questions, and then we'll have the spring statement, and then in the evening we will have the Snowflake watch. So we'll try and get some reaction to the spring statement on that. And then Thursday, myself and One Angry Pagan will have the Eco Show. We'll talk about all sorts of things that's happening in relation to climate, the environment, all that jazz, not just the UK, but perhaps what's happening in the world as well. So do join us for that, because that's very important stuff that we don't talk enough. Excuse me, bit of reflux, don't worry, it's okay. Talk enough about. And then on Friday, I will be covering all things America with the Snowflake on America at 7 o'clock, guys. So you've got quite a lot coming here. Now, I did say, obviously, that I was considering doing live streams at 8 AM in the morning. I am going to try it next week at 8 AM. So I've got already know what the format will be. Don't worry, I'm not going to be copying from Graham Hughes or from Dave McGuinness. It's a different format for what I've got. It's not directly a paper review either, but I've got an idea. We're going to try it out and see how it goes. We'll try it next week on Monday, 8 AM. But don't worry if you can't attend. It's all well and good, but if you can, great. But I'll give you guys a bit closer thoughts about it closer to the time. So who have we got here in the chat? Dave McGuinness, good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Guys, if you haven't already, do subscribe and check out the 2 Davies show. They have he has the paper review that he does on the 2 Davies YouTube channel at 10:30 every morning, Monday to Friday. Don't miss that, as well as they have the 2 Davies show every Monday and Thursday at 4 PM. So do check out their show there. Wee Bud, good to see you there, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Stephen Banker as well. Alistair Keir, good to see you, buddy. Hope you are doing well as well. Let's see, yeah, Jow, good to see you, buddy. Hope you are doing well as well. Billy Kershaw is here. Good to see you, Billy. Hope you're doing well. And Simon says 55. Hope you guys all had a great weekend. Hopefully the weather, I think the weather's starting to turn, which is a good sign as well. And hopefully my health will be as well. The sound is low, is it? Let me pull it a bit closer. Sounds a bit low. I'll bump it up to 200. Hopefully that'll be a bit better. Let me know if that's a bit better or not. Just one more thing before we get going as well. As far as my health concerned, like, I feel a hell of a lot better than I have been the past couple of days and weeks, of course, guys. But I am going to see the doctor still on the 1st of April, and I have an appointment, because I still feel there's something wrong with me and I need more tests. So, because I'm not back to, I don't feel like I'm back to my normal self. So you guys know some of the couple of live streams where I'm struggling at the end. Before I was ill, I never had this issue. So I still feel that there's something wrong with me. So I'm going to ask the doctors when I go in to do more tests on me, because I feel like there's something still wrong, even though they're saying everything seems fine. I feel there's still something wrong with me, because I still occasionally get those coughs, like those really occasionally, but not as much as I used to. But I still feel there's something wrong with me. So, just as a precaution as well. So before we get to the first topics, because I have put the topics down for you guys, I thought it'd be a good idea to get a bit of an explainer here. This was put up literally just under an hour, just roughly less than an hour ago, guys. And I thought we watch this together and share our thoughts. And we're going to be looking at so the spring statement is obviously happening on Wednesday, as we're going to say. We're going to be covering it. But let's just dive into Sam Coates' breakdown of it first, guys. So let's just hear what they've got to say on this.
Has got to get the public finances back on track. And here's Rachel Reeves' problem in a nutshell. She set herself very tight borrowing limits. By 2029, day-to-day government spending must be funded entirely by taxes and not at all by borrowing, which we haven't achieved, you can see all this borrowing above the line, in decades. Back when she set this target in October, her own watchdog, the Office for Budget Responsibility, found she was only going to succeed by the slimmest of margins, a touch under £10 billion. But since last October, growth, look at this, is down 2% to 1%. Borrowing is up to 151 billion. All of this means her headroom is wiped out and she misses her own target. So she's got to find immediate savings across government to replace it.
Now, as you guys know, I'm not in economics. I'm not very good when it comes to understanding economics. And I understand this perspective of stopping us continuously borrowing more money. And to try and stop doing that, and to try and kind of like this sort of live within our own means perspective. I get that. But here's the thing, like, I can understand the position of some people will saying we can't keep borrowing to get ourselves out of this situation. And you're right, we can't keep borrowing to get ourselves out of this situation. But at the same time, unless we deal with specifically this cost of living crisis and deal with the equality within our society, we will never get out of this situation. This situation will continue to get worse and worse and worse unless we deal with inequality. I know you guys are fully aware of this. We have to deal with the cost of living crisis. We have got to get more money in people's pockets. I don't know how we do it, but we need to get more money in people's pockets. While at the same time, and this is the key thing, while at the same time keeping bills frozen or down. Because if we cannot do that, we are stuck in this vortex where people are just going to continue to suffer and suffer and suffer and continue to suffer. It's only going to get worse. We have got to get out of this rabbit hole. Now, if that means we have to borrow more to deal with the inequality in our society, to get people out of this cost of living crisis, to help deal with people's burdens of these bills that they have, so that actually not only can people be able to spend and actually earn a living, to be able to buy a home, but actually live a life, but actually spend a bit more than they can, this would actually benefit the economy so much more. Because there's too many people in society who just cannot even afford the basics, never mind luxuries. And this is hurting businesses. And yes, I know, of course, businesses are going to be, some businesses are going to be hurt by the Chancellor's increase in the national insurance as well. But if we're not going to deal with the inequality, that is the main, that's something that keeps sticking into my mind. Yes, I did see the interview with Gary Stevenson. He is doing a rally, I think it's tomorrow, I think he's doing a rally in London. I won't be able to attend it, unfortunately. It's too short notice that I knew about it. But then we need to keep talking about inequality. And he's right. It can't just be from him. And obviously it can't just be from me. It needs to be coming from everybody. People need to keep talking about it. It's a major issue, and one that is, if it's not dealt with, it's only just going to keep going on and on and on, these problems.
So what's she going to do? Well, actually, we've got a pretty good idea because of these two. Budget-type events used to be state secrets, but after their mini-budget, the Treasury doesn't like surprises anymore.
Well, I don't like I saw Phil Morehouse's video with this to try and trying to make comparisons to this. I really want to be clear about this, because some people are saying about like certain taxes and whatnot. They're trying to certain people on the I don't want to call them left because it's not the right wing. Let's just say centre left. Who are trying to pin like the idea of taxing the rich, yeah, it will scare off everyone. I really want to just put this out there because this is really, really important. When I say talking about taxing the rich, I'm not talking about like bumping it up to such an expense that it's going to be too much money. I'm talking on the common sense level of what the Green Party are initiating when it comes to coming to it. They are still making huge amounts of money. They do not need to make any more money than they need to. Roger Devine, good to see you there, buddy. Hope you're doing well. And good morning, Steve McMorrin, and anybody else who's lurking in the chat. This premise, and I really want to put this on the record, guys, because I have my I really do respect Phil Morehouse's opinions, even though there's things that I fundamentally disagree. But he needs to shut the fuck up when he keeps saying that the rich will leave if we tax them. He really needs to shut the fuck up on that, because he's coming across like he's protecting the rich when he says that, and that really pisses me off. He really needs to shut the fuck up when he says that, because you can tax the rich, and this premise that they're gonna all run away if we tax them is nonsense. We're not talking about ripping them for everything they've got, although the majority of us would like that. I'm talking about a little bit of tax on them. Yeah? Yes, of course, land tax obviously is something he's obsessed about, and I am too. But there are still other ways. The capital gains tax, yeah, that's something that needs to be needs to be more of as well. There's a one-off wealth tax where they can pay more as well. There are many other taxes that we can take more money without harming them at all. But like anybody who's a fan of Phil Morehouse, like I don't hate the guy, but he seriously needs to shut the fuck up. I'm so sick of him saying the rich are gonna leave if we tax them, which is not true. It's just not true. He really needs to stop that, because he's implying that we can't tax the richest in the society. And I'm telling you, and listen, I'm not in economics, but I'm telling you guys, we can tax them. We can ask them to pay a bit more. It's not too much to ask them to pay a little bit more. It's not. It really, really is not. And this idea that it's going to hurt us more, like, I'm just not buying it at all. I really, really am not. It really does infuriate me when he says that. There are a few millionaires that want to be more taxed. That want to be more taxed in the UK. The rich won't leave. They are making too much money. We tax the bastards. They won't leave. Like, we're not going to. I'm just going around in circles on the issue. But I've made my point. Like, again, I don't hate Phil Morehouse. I really want to stress this. But like, I really need to just put this out there. He needs to shut the fuck up about scaring off the rich. He really does. Like, I don't care how smart the guy is. He's totally wrong when he says they're going to leave if we tax them. Even a tiny little bit. Like, that's just not helping our situation at all. Ginger Lefty, good to see you there. I hope you're doing well. I'm sorry to say this, but I mean no offense, but Phil Morehouse's ideas and bias are simple. He never reaches the mechanism behind it, nor does he understand them. I have 3 years of political economics as Jow. I do think we agree to disagree on that. Let us all on all fours see Spurs on a 100th show. Yeah, the one I don't know what I'm going to do for the 100th show, which is in 8 weeks time. Phil is turning into Labour's propaganda channel. I wouldn't go that far, but I could understand people saying that. Comparing trust with Reeves, it's excessive. Yeah, like this comparison here, this is nonsense. Like, this trust and Kwasi Kwarteng were maniacs, absolute maniacs. They were literally like what's happening with Donald Trump now. Like, if we didn't have checks and balances here, you would have you would have Liz Truss doing the kind of things that Donald Trump is doing. But luckily, we have some checks and balances. You'd have that, is what I was saying. Anyways, I'm going well off topic anyway, so apologies.
So, we think Rachel Reeves has to fill a black hole of about £10 billion. It might be a touch more. And she cannot break her borrowing promises, and she needs to restore the headroom to at least what it is at the moment. So this requires the following immediate action.
I'm so sick of the term black hole. Is this the next thing we're going to hear from Labour after the spring statement? We need to find £10 billion black hole. Is this the next thing? So are we going from £22 billion black hole to a £10 billion black hole? Is this the next reference we're getting? Like, I'm so sick of this reference. I really, really am. Now, where do you get this money from? Well, it doesn't have to all come from the rich. It's easy for me to say from the rich, and there are some taxes. There are some ways we can get around it where we can pay for it. Some of you guys much more intelligent and much more better understand about economics than I do. But the fact that £5 billion of this is going to come from benefits, I just don't see how that's going to come about. I also want to stress as well that the proposals that are going to come on Wednesday, whatever they may be, is not going to be something that's going to happen straight away. It is something that's going to be a gradual thing, apparently, as well. I think they said November next year. I think it was roughly these implementations will be going in. It just doesn't paint a very good picture. And there's other stories we'll cover a bit later, but this just doesn't paint a very good picture at all. When at a time when you're looking to take this money from the most vulnerable in society, and it literally it screams austerity. It literally screams austerity. And when people call it that, how can I say to someone that it's not austerity when it totally looks like austerity, smells like austerity, comes across as austerity? How can I say it's not austerity? The people are feeling that.
We heard some of it last week, squeezing welfare spending, cuts to disability payments. Then there's squeezes to future government spending.
We'll cover a little bit of this. I think I'll cover some of this in a video anyway. But I do think the government can squeeze some of the money out of the government, can squeeze some money out of reducing civil servants. Although I don't agree with it. There's a story we're going to be covering later with perhaps that may be related to education, which is absolutely infuriating. But I just feel like they could get the money elsewhere, and they're taking the easy routes while I think about this.
Rachel Reeves says this means efficiencies and civil service cuts, but no return to austerity. We'll see. And then, finally, there's a technical accounting change. A month ago, Keir Starmer increased defence spending by squeezing aid spending. Because of an accounting anomaly, this helps the Chancellor to the tune of billions. Now, the big call on Wednesday will be how much to squeeze future public spending levels. But look back over spending settlements of the last 30 years. It's not going to be easy. Rises of 2, 3, 4, even 5% almost, all the time apart from the post-2010 austerity years of the coalition. But look at this, decent increases last year, this year. But after 2026, Rachel Reeves was plotting increases of just 1.3%. But on Wednesday, these could drop to 1.2 or 1.1%. And with areas like health protected, some government departments could see real terms cuts. Is it austerity light? Then there's welfare. We are told that Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall saved Rachel Reeves £5 billion last week. But we only found out where the savings come from precisely on Wednesday in an impact assessment that gets published on the same day as the spring statement.
That's really, why is the impact assessment being delivered on the same day? It's because they don't want the media talking about it. Well, maybe I should spend Wednesday going through that impact assessment, maybe. What do you guys think?
Which disabled people lose out the most? That could be a major flashpoint. Rachel Reeves will say the world has changed, although she's stuck to the same borrowing rules and tax promises as the autumn. The big question is whether this level of tax and spend overall is sustainable in the long term, or whether, come the autumn, if growth still hasn't arrived, the next budget brings yet more tax hikes.
Interesting indeed, guys. Interesting indeed. Well, I wanted to share that with you because I thought that was quite an interesting breakdown of it. So, so this is what will be in the spring. This is just a little piece from the BBC here of what will be in the spring Chancellor's spring statement. So I'm just going to go down to it here. So, welfare spending cuts aimed at making savings of £5 billion a year by 2030 from the welfare bill were outlined this week. Politics include stricter testing for personal independent payments, affecting hundreds of thousands of claimants, and a freeze on incapacity benefits. More details on the impact of the cuts are expected on Wednesday. Civil servants, the Chancellor has pledged to reduce government running costs by 15% by the end of the decade. There are about 10,000 service jobs to expect to go. So that's by the end of the decade. So that's something they'll be doing over the next 5 years. So it's not something that's going to be done overnight. It's going to be a slow process. So what I assume is that they're not going to be hiring any more civil servants, and what they're going to basically be doing is basically slowly pushing out civil servants where they're not needed. Sectors such as human resources, policy, advice, communications, office management are expected to be affected by the cutbacks. Yeah, and one of the excuse me, one of the points that they've made as well is I haven't got tissue, so I'm going to have to use my hand sanitizer quite a bit here, guys, so apologies. I think also as well with these oh god, I just lost my train of thought there. Office managers, we have to remember that the numbers were increased during the COVID pandemic. They were significantly increased during the COVID pandemic by the Conservatives. They had to, obviously, because of COVID, so they needed more civil servants at that time. So in logical sense, it makes sense to cut back on civil servants, but at the same time, I don't agree with job cuts. I don't agree with it personally. In defence, in setting out her choices, Chancellor's likely to argue the world has changed, as we just saw in the video. The government said it will increase defence spending to 2.5% of national income by 2027, and we'll get more details on how this money will be reallocated from international aid spending. Now, they said that, as I think we covered already before, they have said on international aid spending is that some of the most, so places like what's happening in Gaza, Sudan, Ukraine, obviously, that those aid spendings aren't going to be affected, but other crises in the world are not going to get as much as a direct result. So some African nations and some other conflicts are going to get much less now. Tax rises have been repeatedly ruled out by the Chancellor, but UK taxes on big firms could be changed as part of a deal to avoid US trade tariffs. Reeves has also revealed that talks are ongoing about the tweaks to the 2% digital service tax, which raises about £800 million a year from global tech giants such as Amazon and Meta. I think I had a separate story on that. Yeah, we're going to cover that in a separate story. Before Reeves made a statement in Parliament, the OBR, which monitors government spending plans and performance, will publish its forecast on the UK economy. It will also provide estimates on the cost of living for households and whether it thinks the government will stick to its self-imposed rules on borrowing and spending. Reeves will present the watchdog's main findings for her plans for the economy alongside this. After she has spoken, the opposition likely to be the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch or Shadow Chancellor Mel Sfriber will respond. Reeves has two main rules on borrowing: not to borrow day-to-day funds for public spending, to get debt falling a share of the national income by the end of Parliament. She has repeatedly said that her rules are non-negotiable. However, OBR forecasts expect to confirm that the £9.9 billion financial buffer to meet her budget rules by 2029-2030 financial year has been wiped out. And pressure is growing on Reeves, yet we kind of know about this already because we just covered it. The economy grew by just 1.1%. Again, we covered that in the video. And cover most of this. Costs of business are expected to jump in April when national insurance contributions pay for employment rise, and these could be passed on to consumers. So we know that this here is where we're going to start feeling the pinch next month as well, because either prices are going to go up or people's wages are going to be freezed. That's not people on minimum wage, but some people's wages aren't going to go up as much, or their bonuses are going to be null and void, or they're just going to take on less staff. Some of those things are going to have it because people are not going to eat into their profits. UK government borrowing costs also remain higher this time last year. And there's also potential global trade war with the US imposing tariffs worldwide could lower growth and raise inflation as well. Yeah, and that's also as well. This isn't a budget. I think it's very important to state that this is not a budget. I'm thinking actually maybe I should cover it now. This isn't a budget. Conservatives are trying to make it. It is a spring statement. There is going to be things on it. I'm going to be absolutely cussing myself over. Now the question is, I suppose we need to ask ourselves: is this necessary? Is this necessary for the Chancellor to do what she's doing? My answer is no. And this is, like I say, I'm not going to BS bullshit you guys. I'm not an economic expert. I'm not very well understanding of economics. I just feel like things could be done better, and I feel things could be better explained as well by Labour. I just feel like that the intention here is they are not taking the issues of this cost of living crisis and the inequality in society seriously enough, and they keep focusing on this term of growth, when so far they have yet to show any growth. I said at the start of this year I would wait to see at the end of this year to see how the National Healthcare Service would do under this Labour government before I'd be more judgmental on the healthcare system. By the end of this year, if nothing has changed, if there is still little growth, if we are still in this cost of living crisis, then I will be more vocal on. If I'm not vocal enough, I will be more vocal on Labour, because what we are supposed to see is signs of improvement, is signs of change. I think everybody here does not expect things to get turned over overnight, but we want to see signs that people are getting better off, and we're not seeing that. Like I said, I know that we have gone through 14 years of absolute bloody hell, and I totally understand the position that people feel that Labour are just red Tories, and I totally get that perspective. It definitely feels like that way with some of the rhetoric, the language that they use, and some of the policies that they use. Excuse me. Like I said, this is why I need to go to the doctors again. I totally understand it. I totally understand it. That feeling, guys. But it's really frustrating. Here it is. Let me just see what you guys are saying in the chat. Mithril, good to see you there, buddy. Hope you're doing well. It was pointed out today that someone was sick of the likes calling it spam. Do I care? No, I'll stop. No, says Stephen Banker. Yeah, well, if you want, hitting the like button does help in any way. Let me just scroll up. Everyone saying Reeves has no answer when asked where the growth is coming from either. Just platitudes, said Mithril. Yeah, she's not being. The answer is the European Union, but they can't say that because they're scared of upsetting the tiny supporters of Brexiteers. We have to go back to Keskine's principles of government spending to build infrastructure, create full employment, and grow the economy. Says Steve McMahon. Yep. I'm eating fish, but I really don't like fish, and I don't like the rich. But this time says 55. Giles says, what Mithril said is something that confuses me about the budget in the UK, because here, for example, next door in Spain, budgets say where the money is coming from exactly and not vague. We don't know until Wednesday, where some of this is going to come from. Roger Devine says, to be fair, Labour's growth won't happen overnight. It's going to be more difficult with Tangerine's Terror and Muscatine doing their thing. Yeah, absolutely. Those factors are definitely playing in as well, because everything kind of changed when Trump won the election. I'm pretty sure their plan was, although it was still going to be difficult, it would have been a lot easier if they didn't have the orange man in charge of the White House. Because what happens in America affects us in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't always directly affect us, but it does affect us in some way, shape, or form. So I do think that's a factor into it. Budgets here are documentally reviewed by accountants, says Jow. Governments must be able to see the benefits of a healthy population. Investment in health is a huge economic benefit. I do think, yeah, obviously, like I said, we'll see how the healthcare service does over in a year as well. If that means obviously more people are back into work, if we actually see a decrease in unemployment and an increase in employment over the year because more people are more healthy because of the healthcare, then that would be great. But we'll have to see how that goes. We'd like to things to start to get better at all, even if I see cuts at the moment, says Alistair Kidd. Yeah, I emailed my Labour MP and told him I have no confidence in him, says Sean. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Sean. But yeah, do the best. You know, you could the best. That's one of the best things to do is to keep applying pressure on your Labour MP. If they're check what they're voting for and against as well. If they're voting on things that are against your interests, you know, send in an email and send in or letters and telling them that you don't agree with them. You know, it does apply pressure onto them, even if it seems like a small thing. Alistair Kidd, thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships. Bernie Burrows, Craig Guardsman, Lewis McGee, Firestarter, Gary Arnold. Thank you so much for them. Really, really appreciate it. He's given another 5 memberships. Oh, thank you. That's really kind. To Rachel, DJ Mardy Moose, Simon says 55, Steve Royal, and a Duke, BJ, and Derek McCall. 10 gifted memberships. Thank you so much for that. That's very kind of you, my friend. Yes, he's very, very kind, Alistair. He is indeed. Right, I've been blabbering on. We'll come back to a bit more on the spring statement in a bit. Let's go. I want to talk about this story here, guys. And I'll be doing a poll tomorrow related to this as well. So this is from The Guardian. So the Heathrow fire, Transport Secretary said she struggled to sleep after reports that the airport bus went to bed amid the crisis. So Heidi Alexander declined to say that she has confidence in Thomas Welby after the airport chaos at the weekend. So I do think that the boss should. I do think the boss should resign. Now, first and foremost, there has been the conspiracy theory going around that Russia might be involved in this. I do not think Russia have anything to do with the Heathrow fire. I think that's nonsense. I don't think there's any evidence to support that. And I've actually heard 1 or 2 smart people say that. Like, don't go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theory, please. If you can find me concrete evidence that supports it, feel free to do so. I've even heard, obviously, the Telegraph were trying to, we're trying to spin this, that this was something to do with related to climate or bioenergy or something that was part of the energy grid. Again, another bollocks nonsense here. It's nothing to do with that at all. Really was not. I personally think it was a general reaction. It was a general fire. These things happen. It's easy to say that they're not supposed to happen and they never happen. These things happen. The question really should be, was it right for them to have closed the airport? Did they need to close the airport? Now, there have been some arguments, there have been some cases, I don't know, but there have been many cases that have been put that they had the power, that they could have run that day when it happened. They didn't have to close everything. They could have kept running. Apparently, they had the power to do so, and they chose not to. So that's where conspiracy is. I don't know. Some people can argue the case of whether they can or can't. A generator exploded in Heathrow. It happens. Yeah, it's like, this is like, for me, like, yes, it's rare that it happened, but it can happen. It's unlikely to happen. The chances of these things happening are unlikely. I just think these things do happen. I think also, as well, stories come out that I think like about 90 airline firms are preparing to take legal action against the airport, obviously over compensation. Because as you guys know, many passengers' lives have, whether it's weddings, holidays, businesses, travel, all sorts of things, people's lives have been totally ruined because of this, because of what happened. So people are demanding compensation, and rightfully so. And normally the way you do that is you get it through your airline. Now, I don't know exactly how some of these people are going to get compensation. If they're going to get compensation, they should every passenger who was affected should get compensation. Should get some kind of compensation or whatnot. And normally they get it through their airline. But obviously, it's not the airline's fault. It's the airport for this. So how's this going to work? So my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. So feel free to explain this better to me, guys. So is my understanding is that they get the money from the airlines, and the airlines get the money from the airport because the airport are the ones who screwed this up. I believe that's how it's going to be. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's how it's going to be done. In this scenario, because normally when you're holiday or your travel or whatever, it's always the airline you get your money from. But I'm assuming the airlines are going to get their money from the airport. Answers on a postcard, please. I'll wait for you guys to respond. So UK's Transport Secretary said she would struggle to sleep if she had been running Heathrow Airport amid reports that its chief executive slept during the early hours of the unfolding crisis on Friday. Why was he allowed to sleep and nobody woke him up? How much money is the chief executive on? A fire at a nearby electricity substation caused a chaos on Friday as the airport was shut, with more than 200,000 passengers around the world affected. The airport boss, Thomas Welby, went to bed at 12:30 a.m., the Sunday Times have reported, and left the chief operating officer, Java Eski, to take key decisions while the substation powering the airport burned. Okay, you got the chief operating officer. He should have been up. A situation like this, he should have been up. He should have been down there. He should have been. Heathrow officials told the paper that the decision was taken so it was better rested when he would take a decision to reopen the airport the next day. He had attended an event in central London when the power went late on Thursday night before returning to the airport, he reported. He then resumed work at about 7:30 a.m. And was in his office shortly after 9 a.m. Welby, who took the reins at Heathrow in October 2023, I previously ran Copenhagen Airport for 12 years. He was paid £3.2 million last year, including £2.2 million in bonuses. Heidi Alexander, the Transport Secretary, declined to say whether she had confidence in Welby. She told ABC Radio, I've had to deal with some pretty stressful situations in my time. I probably would struggle to sleep, to be honest. It is my understanding that he places his chief operating officer in charge. He will also have known that there was going to be a huge number of very difficult decisions the following day. I'm not going to justify decisions that Heathrow leadership did or didn't take. I also sat at the table. I don't for the information that he had available to him at that time. Yeah, is it right? Is it wrong that he slept during it? I just, just honestly don't know. REGANELITE, it's 150 miles in debt. Still, the water company still pays out dividends. Don't airlines bid to run routes from airports, or did I just make that up? But they would have already had. I believe so, Billy. But they would have already had to. They would already have paid paid for it already. I understand it. It's my understanding. 5 years ago, the UK's first lockdown began, says Mitchell. Oh my God. 5 years today. Billy, maybe you're right to be fair. I'm not 100% sure. Two of you have we're still suffering from the after effects. Yeah, we're still suffering from the after effects of the lockdown. Europe's busiest airport had more than 1,000 flights cancelled on Friday. After the fire at the substation in Hayes, West London, flights restarted on Saturday and the airport was back to normal by Sunday, a bit with some slight delays. It is... The thing is it takes a few days to adjust, because you're not just adjusting passengers, you obviously got to adjust the airplanes as well, because they're all over the place as well. So it does take a few days to fix everything as well, because obviously planes aren't where they're supposed to be as well. Alexander told Good Morning Britain on Monday if he had been trusting the chief officer to take that decision. And if his judgment, he's going to have the whole number of critical decisions to be taken in the following 24 hours. And I'm not going to second guess why he came to that conclusion. It was the right thing to do. Yeah, I not so much to kicking off too much about the sleeping thing. Like, I personally think he should have stayed up. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think you can throw him under the bus for sleeping in the situation. The chief executive of British Airways Virgin Atlantic worked through the night as Heathrow shut down, forced flights to be diverted in Growler, Sunday Times reported. Refused to comment on whether he should still be in his role when asked by the BBC on Saturday. Yeah, you have to question it, because at the end of the day, he made the decision to close down the airport. And there are questions about it could have still ran and he chose not to. We honestly don't know for sure. Alexander's comments comes as a war of words broke out between Heathrow and the National Grid. The head of National Grid said on Sunday that there was enough power for Heathrow to remain open during the entire period it was shut down on Friday, with electricity provided to 2 other substations. But a spokesperson for the airport said, as on Monday, as the National Grid's chief executive Peter noted, he has never seen a transformer failure like this in his 30 years of industry. His views confirmed that this was an unprecedented incident and it would not have been possible for Heathrow to operate unmitigated. So you have this situation here where the National Grid are basically saying they could have ran but they chose not to. And then you have the airport basically saying, well, no, we wouldn't have been able to do it because we've had something like this in 30. That's never happened for decades and decades. Something like this ever happened in the industry, is what they're implying. So it's a bit of a tit for tat, really. Hundreds of critical systems across the airport were required to be safely powered down, safety automatically rebooted. Given Heathrow's size and operation complexity, safety restarting operations after disruption like this magnitude was a significant challenge. Yeah, because you have to remember also these systems are never turned off. Like they're on 24/7, so it must have been quite a headache for the staff, to reboot all these systems. The Energy Secretary Ed Miliband has ordered the National Energy System Operator to investigate the power outage and internal review of the airport's crisis management team. Plans and its response to disruption will be undertaken by the former Transport Secretary Ruth Kelly. Heathrow said it was running a full schedule on Monday with more than 1,300 flights planned. It managed more than 2,500 flights over the weekend, serving more than 400,000 passengers. Yep, sorry, blah, 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 health and safety. No, we know all that stuff. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what an inquiry and the investigation digs up on this. It may be a while before we hear more about this, to be fair, but these things happen. I really don't think going down the conspiracy rabbit hole is an ideal on this one, if I'm honest, guys. Maybe he closed down the interest of safety of Sarah deployment. Yeah, it could have easily been the case of safety first. Because yes, the main priority of any airport, of anything, is the safety and well-being of passengers. And yes, it caused an absolute headache, but if they thought that they didn't have the power, then they made that conscious decision. It's the health and safety is the most important thing here. UK companies, the UK companies lost business. UK airports cannot even repair airplanes flying in Europe. They do not have the permission to do it because Boris did not sign the bilateral repercussions credentials, and it has cost millions to the UK companies and lost business. The only thing Jal says there also says that the only thing I know currently about British airports is from the news is that they being in debt due to loss of flights from and into in Europe. The world now flies into continental Europe. Yeah, I've heard that this Heathrow airport is in debt. I don't know if I don't know the numbers regarding it. But I would not be surprised at all, to be fair. And they want to build a third runway. Anyways, let's move on, guys. We're talking way too much on topics anyway. Next one here is from Sky News. I'm not going to cover the article in full, but I wanted to touch on it anyway. So, prove how many potholes you fixed or lose cash, councils have been told. So the government is unveiling a funding package of £4.8 billion for critical road schemes as the Chancellor prepared to make billions of pounds of spending cuts at the spring statement on Wednesday. Councils have been warned that they must provide data on the states of the roads. So specifically, I want to talk about potholes. Obviously, they are going to, in this article, it's obviously about bits of the spring statement, but we'll talk. We've already covered some of that already. I think if the government are providing funding specifically for potholes for these councils have no excuse to not get these potholes fixed. I know it may seem like it's not like one of the most important things to some of us here, but it is something that needs to be dealt with. There were a lot of potholes that weren't dealt with under the Conservatives, and they're basically saying get on and get these done. If there is specific funding that is going to be made to the councils to deal with the potholes, just get them done and show that you're getting them done. No arguments, no ifs, no buts. Just deal with it. Just deal with it at the end of the day. That's really simple as that. So the government is telling local authorities they must publish data on how many potholes they have fixed or risk losing their share of the extra £500 million set aside for fixing roads. So from the middle of next month, local authorities across England will start to receive their allocation of the £1.6 billion for fixing roads across the country. But in order to get the full amount, all councils must publish annual reports on how many potholes that they filled, or see a quarter of their additional £500 million in funding the government has allocated this year withheld. So by the 30th of June, all councils must publish reports detailing how much they are spending, how many potholes that they have filled, what percentage of the roads are in what condition, and how they are minimising disruption. This all costs money, by the way, as well. The Transport Secretary is unveiling a funding package of £4.8 billion for 2025-2026 for the National Highway to deliver critical road schemes and maintain motorways and major A roads. This new money will mean pivotal road construction schemes can be pushed forward, that the government says. That's good. We really want to keep things going. This is a key part of Downing Street's drive to ensure the voting public sees the difference in government is making towards their local communities as they fight off a challenge from Reform UK. This is obviously all good for roads and whatnot, but this obviously isn't the high priorities of other things that we look at, really, to be fair. But it is still an issue. Like, it is, like, for people on the local perspective, this is it's still an issue to them. No worries, Roger Define. Thanks for popping in. The broken roads we inherited are not only risking lives, but also cost of working families, drivers, and businesses hundreds, if not thousands of pounds. It's avoidable business vehicle repairs. British people are bored of seeing their politicians aimlessly pointing at potholes with no real plans to fix them. That ends with us. Yes, and I think this is when you remember the Rishi Sunak picture. Do you guys remember Rishi Sunak when he what was it, that image of him with a pothole when he pointed at it? Oh, look, a pothole! What a very big hole! Yeah, it's a pothole, Prime Minister. Maybe we should get them fixed. You know, we've done our part by handing councils the cash and certainty they need. Now it's up to them to get on with the job, putting that money to use and proving that they're delivering for their communities. After years of neglect, we're tackling the pothole plague, building vital roads and ensuring every penny is delivered for results by the taxpayer. Responding to the announcement, the transport spokesperson for the local government association said the cash will help start to address the previously ever-growing backlog of local road repairs, which he added it could take more than a decade to fix. Unfortunately, things take more. It takes longer to fix than it does to break things, which the Conservatives have done. It's also a call. Councillor Adam Hugg has also called for the government to pay its full part by using the spending review to ensure that councils receive sufficient long-term funding certainty so they can focus their efforts on much more cost-effective preventive measures. Yes, I agree. If you not only is it a case of just dealing with the current potholes, but ensuring that the roads are at sufficient levels that they do not end up with potholes in the first place. Yeah, so preventable measures is the key aim there. The Conservatives have responded by claiming Labour want credit for handing councils a pothole sticking plaster. What exactly have you guys done for 14 years when it comes to potholes? Gareth Barron, the Shadow Transport Secretary, continued, Labour are running on empty. They got no plan for motorists, no grips on the problem, and no credibility. Voters shouldn't be fooled. Labour aren't fixing the roads. They're steering Britain into a ditch. Yeah, okay. Okay, guy. I know some people will argue, well, potholes have always been an issue in England. Potholes are always going to be a problem. And you're right, potholes are always going to be a problem. But I am going to throw the Conservatives on the bus saying things were a lot worse under you guys. Let's just be clear about that, okay? Some nice juicy contracts going, says Billy Kershaw there. Potholes, says Cyber says 55. Too many pothole damages lorry damages the roads. It's a circular hole to fill. Yeah, these things, they need to be dealt with. Like, it's more problematic than it needs to. Is the money to repair the potholes, the staff, or both? I believe it's to repair the potholes. I believe. Don't quote me on that. I believe it is. 4.8 billion is small considering they're talking about a lot of roads and a lot of city system banker. Remember, the UK still has a lot of flights for elsewhere in the world. It's not just a small country, but these are all factors that have to be taken into account. It's no longer a gate into Europe. Excuse me. Yeah, that is true, Joe. It's not. Obviously, Heathrow is obviously one of Europe's biggest airports, obviously. So it's one of the biggest airports there. Oh, scroll down, please. Potholes are endemic for tar roads. The issue is repairing them. Yeah, that is true. That is true. So guys, going to take a little break here. I hope you. Rachel Reeves has got a plan to fix the economy here, and I'm sure you guys will agree that but she really does talk some right common sense here on how to fix the economy. Take it away, Rachel.
Hello, it's me, Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, I think. I've got all the charm of Gordon Brown and nearly half as popular. I'm just back from seeing Sabrina Carpenter, and since then I've been busy.
Well, what's going on? Hold on 1 second. Are we still live? Yeah, we're still live. Shouldn't be an issue. Hold on 1 second, guys. I can't believe that.
Hello.
What's going on with this video?
It's me, Rachel.
Sorry about that. Right. Let's try again.
January. So I've been busy crunching all the numbers. What do you think, Salamander? It looks like he's saying stop. But don't worry, because I'm here to save the day. Look at my workings out. So, as you can see, the blip in the economy in January was nothing to do with us, but it was all Donald Trump. You try sticking to fiscal rules and are well run by Elon Musk and the Cookie Monster's orange grapey cousin. And before any of you start blabbing on, I just want to say that us Labour are nothing like the Tories. Yes, we're cutting benefits like the Tories. Yes, we're having to be soft on the non-doms like the Tories. Yes, we're cutting foreign aid like the Tories. But we always pull a very pained and constipated face when we have to do it. Keir is going to spend the next 4 years looking like a man trying to pass a ride-on lawnmower in an aeroplane toilet. So don't worry, things can only get better, but only after they get a hell of a lot worse. Isn't that right, Salamander? The country is safe with me. Anyway, I need to go now to do some expenses. How do I turn these on? Oh no, I know, I'll send my receipts manually out to the accountant. Just at the post box with my expenses. Wine, handbag, drugs. There, sent to the accountant. Oh no, I've just realised that I'm the accountant. Ha!
Oh. She's so Nerding Skinner Comedy, guys, is the YouTube channel. Someone could put a link for her YouTube channel description. Do subscribe to her channel. She's absolutely hilarious. She's absolutely brilliant. I hope she brings back the pet peeves with Rachel Reeves thing, because that was so funny. But yeah, I think that's a pretty clear example of the kind of handling that the economy is being done behind the scenes, off the cameras, by Rachel Reeves. Couldn't be more excuse me, couldn't be more clearer by Rachel Reeves there. Yeah, good stuff there, guys. Yeah, I don't know what was going on. I don't know why I was getting there was a tiny bit of buffering, you guys said, but it looks like we're okay now. But just a quick reminder, guys, if you haven't already, hit that like button, share across social media, subscribe if you haven't too. Do check out the Rumble and Patreon. There's lots. I've got content dropping, free content dropping on both Patreon and Rumble. So do check them out, guys. I really appreciate anybody who goes out their way to support. support me on Rumble or Patreon. You don't even have to be a paid member on Patreon to watch the content for free. You could just literally sign up as a free member, and you can watch additional UK content there. So you don't just get it here. There's also content on there. So do check that out as well, guys. Also, as well, if you want to financially support me in the way, anyway, shape or form, like Stephen Banker has very kindly done, you can become a YouTube member for as little as 99B. Do check out the perks. If you are a high tier member, you will have seen lots of videos have dropped that will be dropping over the next couple of days for you guys as well. So do consider becoming a YouTube member. It really does financially support me in the work that I do. Whether it's being a member or just dropping super chats, any of that kind of stuff, it really does make a difference, and it just keeps me going. And we've reached 2,150 subscribers when I last checked, so we're doing very well. We're about 450 roughly to 2,500 is the mark I want to reach this year. Not really going as fast as I want to be. Hopefully at some point this year we'll have another video that will go viral, because I had one video last year that went viral, and then I had one the year before that went viral. So hopefully at some point this year we'll have a video that goes viral as well. But thank you guys all for being here. Much appreciated as always. Right, plugging out the way. Let's go straight to the next story here. Yeah, this one here was very concerning. It's obviously regarding the spring statement. Obviously, all the education cuts Reeves could make from period products to free school meals. So the education sector and schools are bracing for the worst financial situation for a decade. I should also point out as well, because this is really important before we read into this. Rachel Reeves has said, I think it was in an independent article I saw when I was looking at stuff as well. She has said that this is the first she's heard of it, of any school meals being cut. She said, this is news to me. This is what the chancellor stated. I'm just quoting what she said. I don't know if those quotes are in this piece, but I want to put that out there. So it's possible that that there may not be any cuts in the education sector, but it is still a cause for concern. So free school meals for many infants are reportedly be under threat as ministers are working out what savings the government can make to avoid raising taxes. Physical statement we talked about already. In education, there are also suggestions that the Chancellor's acts could fall on a host of other schemes, including free period products in schools, when details of the comprehensive spending review expected in June are announced. So the Department of Education, or at least direct funding for schools, has traditionally been a degree of protection from such rounds of Whitehall cuts. But the iPaper has reported on Sunday, sources said that the education sector is bracing for the worst financial situation for a generation. Schools will have to find money from internal efficiencies to help cover a pay rise for their teachers, they said. While plans for some new state schools will not go ahead to save cash, some could even find themselves forced to lay off staff. Education should be ring-fenced. There should not be debate. Education should be ring-fenced. There should not be anything coming out of the spring statement that will relate to any kind of cutting from the education sector at all. It should be ring-fenced. And it's also important to point out as well that we still have some schools that are still suffering from that are still crumbling, that still need fixing as well. And I know that's going to take time, but that needs money too. No, that's not money that's going to come out of thin air. That needs to be dealt with too. The very fact that this is in the conversation is very scary. I really hope the I are wrong on this. I really hope they are. The iPaper have gotten some stories wrong before, guys. And more suggestions of areas could be cut reported this morning, as well as free school meals. They include dance, music, and PE schemes. Again, I hope they are wrong. If they're cutting free school meals while also bragging about breakfast clubs, like what have I said about meals, guys? I've said, and I'm sure you guys heard me say this already, I don't care who you are, no child should ever have to have trouble. All children should be guaranteed breakfast, lunch, dinner. They should be guaranteed 3 meals a day. Every single child in the whole of the UK, not just England, Scotland, Wales, and all that. Every single child should be guaranteed it. And I don't want to hear anything about funding for it. Funding should not be an issue when it comes to feeding goddamn kids. This is not a debate. If you have a problem with taxpayer funding money feeding kids, you are the problem. You are the problem. DFE sources have questioned the accuracy of claims in the story. The Times from Insider suggests that some of the potential cuts were presented by Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson were tactical because they would be too politically difficult to get rid of. It's no secret that there are some tough choices coming down the tracks, but if people don't think Bridget is going to fight tooth and nail to protect programs that support the most disadvantaged children, they don't know Bridget very well. Any suggestions of those things are being offered up is complete rubbish. The DFE has not ruled out any of the cuts. Every pound of government spending will be subject to scrutiny, with the DFE making a case for each measure, including how it fits with Labour's plans for changes. So free school meals. Currently, all children in recipients Year 1 and Year 2 are eligible for free school meals, with schools getting a grant to support the universal programme. The Times reported that the measure has been identified in the bottom 20% of the lowest value for money, and that British Film has suggested making it means tested. Why the F would you means test meals? Why the you want to means test children's meals? What the fuck is wrong with you? This will bring the policy in line with free school meals for older children, which are allocated based on whether the parents qualify for benefits. Period products in schools. Oh, don't they get free? They get. Don't they get lots of free benefits like this kind of stuff in Scotland? Don't they? Free period products are available to girls and women in their place to study, including state schools and DFE funding for 16 nighter education organisations in England. It means that girls can access sanitary pads or tampons if they have forgotten or run out, if they cannot afford period products or have come in periods unexpectedly. The scheme is understood to be at risk of the spending review. Do not touch this. Do not touch this. Don't be an idiot. Leave the girls alone. Seriously. DFE music and dance scheme. This one I really hate just as much as the other two guys. Provides grants and helps with fees at dance and drama schools such as Royal Ballet School, Guildhall School of Music and Drama for the Royal College of Music. The programme is intended to help talented students with the cost of performing arts training. The amount of pupils they get depend on the household incomes and where they live and study. Guys, I just want to say, I'll come to your super chat in a moment, Alistair. Like, dance, music, PE schemes, these kind of things, guys, really, really, really do make such a difference to people's lives. Transform people's lives. They really, really do. People who've come from really rough and poor backgrounds, dance and music is life-changing. It's a life-changing for a lot of the youngsters. It can change their lives. The power of music, the power of dance, the classes and all this kind of stuff is so important for children. It can transform. I can't stress how important these things matter. I really can't. Spicy. Thank you, Alistair, for the £5 super chat. Spicy recently, excellent. Yeah, I just had to say it. I'm sorry. I just had to say it. So the program is intended to help talented students with the cost of performing arts training. The amount of pupils get depends on the household income and where they live and study. So another option for saving could be the PE and sports premium for primary school, which provide funding for all children to have equal access to high-quality PE provision. Schools are advised to use the funding to help children to be active for at least 60 minutes every day to improve equal rights access for boys and girls and ensure teachers have the relevant skills and training. Yeah, another one they should not touch. Again, like, why touch this? Why touch this themes? The Turing scheme, which pays for schools and further and higher education institutions and faculty studies abroad placements for students, is also understood to be on the table for cuts. This program replaced the Erasmus scheme, which the UK left after Brexit. The iPaper previously reported that universities and post-16 education could be vulnerable if the funding is squeezed, with a vice chancellor saying that schools would always take the priority. Put us back in the Erasmus scheme. wraparound childcare subsidies. Currently, there is funding for local authorities in England to help provide wraparound childcare, such as breakfast and after-school clubs in the area. Protecting after-school clubs is so vital for communities. So vital. Dancing, turn me around, no pun intended, says Stephen Banker. Hello, Red Golden Child. Welcome. I just watched your Jamaican public video. You're live. Feel so lucky. Hello. Good to see you there. Hope you're doing well. Welcome. Welcome, Red Golden Child. Hope you're doing well. Stephen Moore says, if you're the 6th biggest economy in the world and you're happy to let children go hungry, something is very wrong. Yeah, absolutely, Steve. Yeah, this should not be fun. Benefits everyone here and at EU level, Giles says. What's that? When the flooding happened in Spain, we were in our tune with our firefighters, so we went over the borders. They were integrated into local Spanish brigades. This local ability to do things benefits everyone here in the EU level, he says. Thanks for that. Yes, after school clubs, don't touch it. Right, another one, do not touch! The grant supports local authorities to increase the number of wraparound places before and after schools to gather evidence of what works. However, it is reported to be another risk policy. It is separate from Labour's policy to introduce universal breakfast clubs to all primary schools, just for that. Junior ISAs for children in care. At present, most children who have been in care for at least a year are entitled to a 200 payment form the government into a junior ISA. This is accessible to all who look after children who do not already have a JSIA or a child trust fund, which was a previous scheme for long-term tax-free savings accounts for children that closed in 2011. The money belongs to the child, but they cannot take it out until they are 18 years old. The Times reported that this policy could be stopped if DfE are forced to take efficiencies. This one out of all of them is the one that I, as much as I don't want it to be cut, like this is the, if I had to pick from all of these guys, this would be the one. I understand. This would be the one that I would, if I had to pick out of all these, this is the one I would go for. And the reason why is that I understand the risks of doing it. I understand. And yes, of course, if I was a parent, I would absolutely invest in an ISA for my child as well. But for me, like this is the least damaging I feel out of all of them. If I had to cut one of these, it would be that one. I'm not implying that it's not important, but if I had to choose. But we honestly don't know. We shouldn't be doing any of them in the first place. Right, let's go to another one that I wanted to rant about. I've been holding on a bit as well. This one is from the Times, you guys. I know I'm jumping straight into the next one, but we've been running for over an hour already. So the UK could scrap the digital service tax on tech giant Reeves. Hence, the chancellor indicated that ministers could axe an £800 million annual tax on US tech firms as part of a trade deal. This is so infuriating. I saw a video today from No Justice where she was watching a video where Daisy Cooper, the Liberal Democrat deputy, I think she's deputy leader of the Lib Dems behind Ed Davey, she talked common sense. To be fair, we've seen her before. She seems like she's a lot bright. She's probably the more brighter than any of the Lib Dems, I would say, out of all of them. To be fair, but she was saying that it's absolutely that is wrong. Obviously, to any kind of that we shouldn't be doing any kind of easing things up on the digital service tax for the tech giants just to appease Donald Trump. We really, really, really should not be doing any kind of appeasement on this. They are not getting that taxed much as it is in the UK, these tech companies. The tax they pay is pittance. Is absolute pittance. And they make so much money out of the UK. It's really not that hard to ask them to pay a little bit more. And it kind of pisses me off that perhaps that these tech companies could be leveraging the US government to leverage the UK government to go easy on this digital service tax, because that seems like what it's implying here. And it's just like, dude, like we're just asking you to pay a little bit more tax, and it's like, no, we don't want to upset anyone. Like that's what it feels like to me. I hate this. They make so much money, social media companies. Ministers were prepared to scrap an $800 million a year tax on American tech companies as part of an economic deal with the US to escape the worst of President Trump's tariffs. I'm just going to say this now. It's 2%. Yes, thank you. I'm pretty sure it was 2%. That's what I said in the video. I wasn't 100% sure, but thank you for clarifying, Alistair Key, on that. Yeah, 2% is nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. I'm sure it's much. Someone give me an example in Europe. What is it? 10% in Europe? Like, it's nothing. It's nothing. As for this, right, to try and like stand away from President Trump's tariffs, okay? He can change. He can wake up one morning and decide to impose more tariffs on the UK. Like, you should not be making this decision based on whether or not you will get tariffs from the US or not. We are going to get hit with tariffs one way or another from the United States. We should not be making a decision on this tax based on whether Donald Trump might or might not impose tariffs on us, because he's going to impose tariffs on us either way. No matter how much cozying up you do to Donald Trump, he's still going to impose tariffs on us either way. We're going to get tariffs on us, okay? No matter what. Like, he gave the guy literally a letter from the king for another royal state bloody visit at the expense of us taxpayer money. And this guy is going to still impose tariffs on the UK. He's still going to impose tariffs on us. Just don't change anything with the digital service tax. Don't change anything on it. Just don't. Just don't. So spineless Britain are on this. The Chancellor confirmed on Sunday that the government was talking to US administration about the future of the tax, and pointedly refused to guarantee that it will remain. So basically this is basically the tech companies are lobbying the US administration to pressure the UK government to drop this. That's exactly what this is. Trump has cited the so-called digital service tax as an example of unfair trade practices, which he is determined to respond with tariffs due to be announced at the start of the next month. He's going, like I said, he's going to impose the tariffs regardless, okay? So you might as well just go ahead with the digital service tax. Just go with it, yeah? He's going to impose tariffs whether you like it or not. If he doesn't do them now, he's going to do them later. Ministers are hoping to escape the worst of the levies with a limited trade deal that is being negotiated with Washington. You're not... Oh, for God's sake. This could result in the government agreeing to end the tax, which involves a 2% charge on the UK's revenues and search engine, social media services, online marketplaces. 2%! Oh, the humanity! 2% of their taxes coming out! Oh my God. Just 2%! Asked repeatedly whether the tax will remain, Reeves suggested it could be abolished as part of the broader trade agreement with Washington. Spineless. We're in discussions at the moment, a whole range of things with tariffs with the United States. We will continue to operate on that principle. You should pay taxes in you should pay on taxes in the UK which you operate. Well, they don't, do they? Because you're too spineless to tax them. It's really important for UK businesses based as well. They don't face an unfair disadvantage from the companies they aren't pay tax. It's just an insult. Lord Madison told the Financial Times tax itself is under discussion, suggested that there were a variety of options on the table beyond scrapping it. Peter Card, Technology Secretary, said discussions were at a very early stage, but that people will start to see soon the fruits of these discussions. British officials said that the UK and US are close to drawing up heads on agreement on a deal that initially focused on technology cooperation. Don't want cooperation, we just want a bit more money from them. You know, the preserves principal agreement played in place before April 2nd when Trump is due to announce higher tariffs on countries he feels are discriminating against the US. He fears the fears that these could be as high as 20% on exports in the US. Trump claims that VAT amounts to be an import charge. Reeves has rejected the claim, arguing the UK has a balanced trading relationship with the US. President Trump is rightly concerned about countries that run. No, she just has to say this to keep the orange walnut happy. Treasury officials said any moves to scrap the digital service tax will not be included in Reeves' break statement this week. However, if a trade deal is agreed, it could form part of an autumn budget. So we have to wait for the autumn budget. The tax particularly affects American companies such as Alphabet, Meta, and Amazon, which was introduced by the Conservative government in April 2020 to ensure global digital businesses pay tax that reflected the money the business made from consumers. The flat rate, 2% per charge, is applied to companies that have global revenues of more than half of 500 million and affects revenues as derived from the UK. Scrapping it would be controversial. Ed David Lever suggested doing so would be a form of appeasement towards Trump, suggesting the government strategy was to let's be nice to him and hope he won't hurt us. That's exactly what it is. I just literally said that. Yeah, and basically saying, tax them. Basically, Ed Davis is literally saying they tax them. Do not drop it, is my message. It's a very simple message on it. Do not drop it. Don't be spineless. Don't drop it. I remember, if I remember correctly, I paid less than half of the cheapest prices here, says Jal. This is why many moons ago I bought my Skyrim from the UK less than the price here. That's the example of another profitable business the UK lost. Trump is not going to give you a free trade deal. Just get over it. Yeah, I remember. Do you remember when the US bragged? Not the US. Do you remember when the Conservatives bragged about getting a US trade deal from Donald Trump when we left the UK and all that? And it's just like never came. And now you're having this. They're saying that we could get some kind of limited trade deal, and I'm like, Labour, you're just talking out of your arse here. Like, you're not getting a trade deal. America's got other things on its mind, and we kind of got other things on our mind. What we should be doing is closer alignment with the EU. For fuck's sake, Britain has always had the courage to stand up to dictators, bowing down to Trump. Much like this is abject cowardice. Yeah. Like, I will just say devil's advocate on this part. Like, I understand that Labour are trying to protect. They are trying to protect UK businesses, and they are trying to protect UK from Donald Trump's tariffs. And they want to avoid tariffs at any and all costs. And I understand that. I understand that. I totally understand that from the government's perspective on that part. And I respect that position. I really, really do. But Trump is a wild fucking animal. You cannot control this animal. Like, you cannot appease this animal. You just can't. Like, it's literally like an animal in a cage. And no matter what you feed it, what you give it, even if it makes it happy for a day or two, it can still turn volatile the very next day. Like, it is like Donald Trump is an uncontrollable animal. That is what he is. It's just not going to work. We're going to get hit one way or another. Right, let's get to our last story, guys, because I'm going well over time. So this one here is from Byline Times. There's an argument piece here. So Israel's genocide in Gaza is a fatal flaw in Starmer's European alternative to Trump and Putin. If we are to build a broad consensus in Europe against Trump, we need to bring Palestine into equal focus with Ukraine, argues Martin Shaw. I'm pretty much sure everybody that's watching this is in agreement with me that, of course, what's happening in the Middle East is absolutely horrific and disgusting, and we should be calling out Israel in the same way that we are calling out Russia for what's happening in Ukraine. But we all know from a political perspective they're not going to do that, because Israel has its claws in not just in the UK and the US. It has it in other European countries such as Germany as well. There's a lot of there's political influence here. We know it's political. We know that the reason that they're not calling them out is political reasons. Plus, we're still supplying weapons and arms to Israel as well. Like, I know this argument piece isn't really, like, I am going to agree with what Martin Shaw is going to be saying, but it's going to fall flat on its face, because whether you have a Conservative government, whether you have a Labour government, whether you have a Reform government, nothing is going to change with regards to our relationship with Israel. No matter how terrible, no matter how horrific they're going to do, nothing is going to change. And that's the sad reality of it. And it is double standards because of what's happening there as to what's happening in Russia and what's happening with the war in Ukraine. Sorry, if my mic's away from me, just let me know, sorry. As UK and EU leaders try to find their bearings in the face of Donald Trump, there is one main point that they may agree. Ukraine cannot be sacrificed to Vladimir Putin and his murderous campaign destroying the integrity of the European state. But the other thing which implicitly among all leaders agree on is that Gaza can be sacrificed to Israel's Trump endorsed a genocidal war. This contradiction is the Achilles heel of the current attempts to found a new European foreign and defence policy. No one embodies it more clearly than Sir Keir Starmer. The British Prime Minister, considerably discredited at home after barely 8 months in office, has found in Ukraine a course to restore his moral integrity, his European credentials, and he hopes his electoral credibility. Yet the former human rights lawyer Gaza is sustained that never ceases to blight. Yeah, that is true. Steve McMahon, thank you so much for the $5 New Zealand dollars. I really appreciate your support, my friend. Thank you for your support, and yeah, it's really, really helpful. Support, you know, that really does help support the channel. As anybody who is a YouTube member, any of that stuff, guys, really does make a massive difference. Thank you everyone who does support the channel, even if you can't financially support, by the way. Just being here, hitting like, commenting, watching videos, all that stuff does support me. I really appreciate it, because I know not everybody can afford to support, and that's totally cool. So, but those who can, I really, really appreciate it. A decade ago, in another career, Starmer appeared before the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, to argue Croatia's genocide case against Serbia, describing the 1991 destruction of the city of Valsfor, in which over 1,000 civilians died, in terms that clearly fit much of the great destruction of Gaza today. Not an armed conflict directed at military objectives, but a rationally disproportionate attack deliberately intended to devastate the towns and its civilian population. Yeah. Even as the Labour leader tweeted in 2021, genocide can never be met with indifference, impunity or inaction. And this January, in a speech at the Holocaust Memorial Day, he proclaimed, "It is on all of us to make never again what he says never again." Yeah, it was clear that he did not include Palestine. He completely failed to mention Gaza. And the same day, his Foreign Secretary David Lammy, author of similar petties, held a reception together with the Israeli ambassador Tipsy Hoven, a brazen propagandist for the attack on the Strip's civilians. Last week, as Israel's assault, emboldened by Trump, returned to levels of killing last seen in late 2023. By the way, it's more than 500 Palestinians, including more than 100 children, have already died since the ceasefire broke up, by the way, just for reference there, if you haven't been aware. Lammy's final venture was a clear statement that he was in breach of the international humanitarian law. But even this was too much for Starmer, and the minister, under the presence of a clarification, had to make unclear what he had previously clarified. Following the leader's line, Israel was only of risk of a breach. So literally, oh my days! So David Lammy said this in the House of Commons, that it was a breach of international humanitarian law. Then he got told, no, you can't say that. You've got to roll back on that. Like, you can't say, this is the thing, they're not allowed to say anything that would upset Israel. They're just not allowed to. It's so fucking stupid. It's so blatant that everyone is saying it. They know it, but they can't say it because they have to appease their Israeli masters. It's insane. This transparent cover-up on Israeli crimes occurs in a full 14 months after the ICJ ruled that there is a real and immediate risk of irreparable prejudge to the rights of Palestinians under the Genocide Convention. Months have been filled with killing, destruction, and starvation as Israel ignored the court's instructions. The court has not made a full judgment on the case that Israel has committed genocide, but the legal duty of the UK and other European states to act to prevent it was triggered by the first judgment in January 2024, if not earlier. Some of his colleagues have now been in breach for a long, long time, not only failing to halt Israel's campaign, but also for the UK's activity complicity in it. It should not be necessary to explain to a lawyer why compliance with the law is desirable, but Starmer is now in a position, and so it's a political case that we must turn. He has assembled together with French President Emmanuel Macron, incoming German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, and EU leader Ursula von der Leyen, a coalition of the winging for Ukraine in the face of its threatened abandonment by Trump. They seek to mobilize their people to oppose Putin and to support large increases in defense spending. The case for Ukraine is strong. It is a victim of a naked imperial aggression, gross attacks on its civilians, and a brutal occupation in several regions. One that might almost describe its plight as unprecedented, at least in recent times. Expect there is an ongoing precedent, Palestine, where Israel has long inflicted the kind of terror that Russia causes in Ukraine, and Mariupol, where Russia razed a whole city to the ground in 2022, killing thousands of civilians and expelling more. This was a foretaste of what Israel has done to Gaza in almost every day since 2023. But the only difference, you know what the difference is, guys? It's geopolitics. It is where it is geography-wise, and because of the politicking that Israel has and the influence that it has in the Western nations, is why they cannot do this. Even though in front of the whole fucking world, everyone sees what's going on. but they still continue to bury their heads in the sand. Yet Europe's new determination to stand by Ukraine invoking international law fails to find an echo when it comes to Gaza. Many of its leaders, far from opposing Trump on this, join him in supporting Israel. European states have been the prime supporters of the International Criminal Court, which has indicated Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for several war crimes and crimes against humanity, with its judge alienating a widespread and systematic attack against a civilian population. Possible harbinger on genocidal charges when they issued the arrest warrants, but the German and Polish governments went out of their way to welcome visits by the indicted war criminal Netanyahu, even as they banned the indicted war criminal Putin. Thus, it is not only the UK whose air forces files regular surveillance flights over Gaza in conjunction with Israel from its base in Cyprus. Italy has providing support for the ongoing genocide. Germany sells Israel almost a third of its arms and gives its unwavering diplomatic backing. Many European states protect Israel's atrocities from serious opposition, repressing Palestine protests, tarnishing anti-Semitic and promoting anti-Palestinian racism. As much as the USA has done since the start of the war, this continues even now, although it's clear that the repressions of Palestinians have become the cutting edge of Trump's far-right authoritarianism. Yeah, you know what? One thing I really, really, really hate. So I went to the St. Patrick's Day parade in London, guys, and I really want to point this out because I think this really emphasizes just how stupid these things are. So there's lots of different organisations, obviously, in the St. Patrick's Day parade. Obviously, Irish ones, but they do non stuff as well, the non ones as well. But they had this group of an Irish Palestinian group there, and even though they were just emphasising their support for Palestine, yeah, they still had to have. They didn't. Luckily, their group were not being escorted by police because then it would have been too obvious. But they still had security. They had security at the front and behind them, in the parade. And I was just thinking to myself, is that really necessary? Like, if you had like an Israeli group in that, would you have security there as well? It is as though Europe was arming Russia, not Ukraine. As repressing solidarity with its victims, it's the kind of approach that European objects to when it comes from Trump himself. But Europe's supports for Israel is inside its own Trumpism of its own. Compromising resistance to America would be dictator, and the bowls poorly for the prospects of political mobilization against Putin. As leaders cohon liberal values in a European bubble, prizing Ukrainians over Palestinian lives, defending Europeans from an imperial power in the East, but not our near neighbours in the Middle East from similar colonial aggression. Many can see the racism at work. It is not only leaders and publics in the global south who can smell Europe's hypocrisy, men in the West can too, and their votes count. Trump's victory was narrow, and Joe Biden's embrace of Israel, continued by Kamala Harris, who barred pro-Palestinian Democrats from addressing her conventions, may have driven away enough liberal left and Muslim voters in the swing states to cost the election. Well, yeah, because there were even pro-Palestine voters who literally voted for Trump in at the U.S. election, and they deeply regret it now. Similarly, Starmer's 2023 remarks endorsed cutting off water and electricity to Gaza, led to large Labour losses to the pro-Palestinian candidates in 2024, almost costing West Street in his seat. Yeah. It was so good to see some of those Labour MPs getting an arse kicking in the general election over the pro-Palestine. They deserved it. Some of their because they weren't taking it seriously. Starmer seems determined to ignore these warnings, believing instead to continue to chase right-wing voters to keep him in power. And that Ukraine gives him the wedge issue against Nigel Farage. Yet experts have long argued that given a choice between the two, right-wing voters will prefer the original rather than the copy, and many of them aren't worried about Putin. On the other hand, many who do not care about Ukraine also care about Gaza. And the entire elections, Starmer will need to stop them peeling off to the Greens and Independents who are standing up for Gaza, or to the Liberal Democrats. Yeah, I really do hope that the Greens need to capture more voters when it comes to Gaza. I do hope more of them turn to the Greens, because the Green Party's position has been the same since it started. A European alliance against new Trump-Putin axis cannot ignore the damage that Western support for Israel's genocide is doing. to liberal democracy within the continent as well as on a world scale. Since in the UK, many other countries, the traditional centre-right is hollowing it out and largely contaminated, effectuating electoral coalitions will be able to maintain the firewall against the far right, only by uniting the centre with its increasing pro-Palestinian left. The mainstream media's embrace of Israel, with its tendency to equate concern for Palestinian lives with anti-Semitism and support for Hamas, has been a major reason why centre-left politicians have failed to stand up for Gaza. It is not only BBC but also liberal-left outlets like The Guardian, which have been compromised by its dreadful pro-Israel ideology, and it has often been left to independent publications to challenge it. Ballantyne's was possibly the first in Britain to raise the alarm, publishing my warning of the Israel genocide just 6 days after the October 7th, 2023, was widely and has widely covered it ever since. Indeed, my piece was one of the first in the world, together with an article published by the fellow genocide scholar in which the USA appeared on the same day. These claims, regardless of the skepticism at the time, have now become the common sense of international human rights community. Authoritarianly elaborated by Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and the UN Special Rapporteurs Francesca Albani, as well as in the judgments of the ICJ. Yep, for the most parts, the centre-left press, and even many cohorts critics of the new far-right authoritarianism, continue to marginalise Gaza, following Starmer in treating Trump's portrayal of Ukraine as the main danger of his extreme pro-Israel policy as a sideshow. If we are to build a broad consensus in Europe against Trump, we need to bring Palestine into equal focus with Ukraine. The reasons why the centre-left cannot allow Israel so much leeway, not only for repression but even for genocide, we need that to be a part of the conversation. So for those who don't know, Martin Shaw worked on the war and genocide, including the classic What is Genocide, and he is currently writing The Return of Genocide. His most recent books are The Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament and Political Racism, Brexit and its Aftermath. He is emeritus at the Sussex and a research professor at the IBEI in Barcelona. I want to agree with him, but it's not going to be in the centre of conversation. No worries, Mithril. Thanks for popping by. We're wrapping up soon anyway, buddy. So thanks for popping in. Yeah, it's like I want Palestine to be treated as a country, as a nation of people, that be given the same rights, the freedoms that we have here. That some of you, whoever you are have those rights to be able to live the life that you have, to have the homes that you have, to be able to work to be able to go out, work, make a living for what you have. I want those rights to be given to Palestinian people. But we know that that's not what's happening. We know they're not being given those same rights. I've talked on Rumble many times about how, for example, the West Bank, and I've always put the example of, imagine someone coming in, taking your home, and you call, and there's no authorities to come and help you in that situation. And they literally take your home that you're sitting in right now. I've always said that. Because that's what's happening in the West Bank. Because the police there are on the side of the settlers and not on your side when your human rights are literally being abused right in front of you. Because you being a Palestinian person and not an Israeli person. Literally based on your nationality. It's so wrong on so many levels. But we don't, like we call it out. Martin here calls it out. Owen Jones, obviously on his channel, he calls out what's happening on many occasions. Lots of other people do. But when it comes to the higher ups, you don't hear diddly squat. And they won't do anything to upset Israel. And the thing is, unless the only way they're going to silence the public on this is they literally have to suppress social media. And at the moment, they can't do that. Because every single day, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, videos pop up every single day of what's happening in Gaza. And rehashing of old videos all the time. It's not going away. The reality is there. And we have to keep talking about it. And that's why I say to people, like, do check. If you can watch the Rumble videos, please do. Because I do try to cover the Middle East as much as I possibly can there, because it's important to call it out and say what's happening over there, even if some of it feels like rinse and repeat. It's important to remind ourselves what's happening over there. I know it's brutal to talk about it, but it's important to remind ourselves of it. And we probably will cover a bit of it tomorrow on the Snowflake Corner. Excuse me. So, guys, before we head out for the Snowflake Viewpoint, we've gone over 1 hour, over an hour and a half here. It's been a long live stream, guys. But just before you run away, we've got one last video for you guys. Don't worry, I've got a nice, good one here for you. And I really have to say big thank you to Larry and Paul here, who got a very, very important message here, guys, when it comes to mental health. This is parody, don't worry. We might as well have a laugh about it, because I really hope, that the internet doesn't buffer while playing this video as well. Cross fingers anyway. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This is the headline for this video is West Streeting's message on mental health. So I hope you guys get a laugh out of this.
This is an official message about mental health from the Department of Health and Social Care.
Man up. Doctors say poor mental health is all around us, but we think there's simply too much of it, and we would like that to stop. Depression can strike at any time, with anyone. But just because you can't get out of bed, are thinking about ending it all, and an experienced medical professional says you're definitely depressed, it doesn't mean you are depressed. Get a grip. You may have been told by a qualified expert that you've got ADHD because you can't focus on anything, maintain relationships, or keep any sort of time. Your thinking is disordered, you're hyperactive, forgetful, and emotionally dysregulated. No. Listen, we think ADHD is for children, and you're not in school now. Grow up. So, a mental health specialist says you've got PTSD. No, you haven't. Are you a soldier? No, you're not. Snap out of it. Why are you so cross? Have you tried calming down? Listen, too many of you misery guts are claiming benefits. The welfare system has to be sustainable. Otherwise, the UK government won't have billions of pounds to siphon off to Thames Water shareholders, or to plan infrastructure projects that they'll never build, or to bail out greedy banks, or to fund foreign wars or whatever. You get the idea. And it's just too easy for someone suffering from acute panic attacks to fill in 1 million forms and go through hugely protracted assessments. We think some of you are pretending to have anxiety for fun, and that needs to stop. Look, there may have been a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, a cost of living crisis. There may be child poverty to worry about, low-paid and insecure work, 15 years of austerity, record inequality, economic stagnation. Your barely elected leaders may be complicit in flagrant war crimes and may be constantly gaslighting you. There might be stabbings and shootings and massacres of innocents reported daily on the constant stream of endlessly terrible news, with the threat of nuclear annihilation thrumming ever louder in the background. But we don't understand why you're so grumpy about it all. When you talk about it affecting you, you sound mental. Pull yourself together and man up.
That's it, people. You gotta man up. Oh, it's funny, but at the same time, it's not so funny because it's so serious as well. I get what they were trying to do. Here, because they're trying to be funny, but at the same time, it's like when you see some of that, it's like it's real. It's real. No, you just need to man up. You just need to man up. Well, it's not as simple as that, you know. It's not as simple as that. Ah, guys. Ah, dear, oh dear. Yeah, guys, I want to say massive thank you once again for all coming along. Thank you, guys, for all your comments. Thank you, Stephen Morn, for your £5 super chat, and thank you, Astakir, for your £5 super chat, and also for your 10 gifted membership. So it's very kind of you today. Thank you, guys, for those support. Much appreciated. Thank you, guys, all for coming along tonight as well. It's greatly appreciated. Reminder: I will be live tomorrow at 6 p.m. covering the world news. So if you guys want to join me for that, please feel free to do so as well. We got lots to cover this week as well. Just see the gang before we go. They are here. The orb is active. The orb is active. Believe it or not. Incredible. The orb is alive and well, guys. So that's a good thing as well. And Ollie is Ollie wants to say a massive thank you as well for those who have supported today as well. It's greatly appreciated, guys. Really appreciate it as well. So let me just look. Yeah, you can see them all there. They're all here. They're all here. Cash dummy, don't fall over. Pingu. For those who don't know, Pingu is a member of Briggs as well. Just to remind you guys, Pingu is a part of Briggs as well. He said he's got another meeting later this week, so we'll find out how it went with him and Putin and the other members of Briggs. He said he had a meeting with them. He wouldn't disclose where or who though, but that's what he said. But yeah, we'll find out later this week. So anyway, guys, just before I go, one last thing to say. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. Greatly appreciated. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. It does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. You can even join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon. Have a great week, everyone.